came and liberated us. I was free.
Think about that little boy who just come through hell and back and now is walking home where there is no home.
Twin Cities Film Festival wraps up its run tonight with a screening of a very special, a very powerful, and a very important documentary. It's called For the Living. It's about dehumanization repeated over history and empathy in our world and the need for compassion. It's told through the lens of a powerful event and a small story within a big event that sort of bridges history and the present. Minnesotan Lisa Effris used to be an intern on this very show years ago. You are one of the producers in the film, and Tim Roper is a writer and co-director of the film. I want to welcome you guys to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
We told sort of a broad perspective there of what the film's about, but if you could summarize what the film's about for us before we watch another clip.
Certainly. It's quite an interesting balance of both historical and contemporary stories and issues. But it starts out with a cycling event that takes place in Poland, starting at the gates of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the death camp, the worst part of the entire Auschwitz complex. 250 folks from all over the world converge on this place in order to commemorate the journey of a little 10-year-old boy who was liberated in 1945 by the Russians. And he had to walk through a war zone to try and find any surviving family. And as they partake in this journey, we begin to expand outward into the patterns of humanity and why we continue to do these things to one another. The dehumanization that leads to genocide is very much alive right now in this very moment amongst all of us. But there's a lot of issues within that. You know, what is it about our common humanity that we have such a difficult time holding on to?
Yeah, it's a super heavy topic. Let's take another clip here before we get more into it.
When we started talking about this trip, this Ride for the Living, we thought it'd be a fantastic thing for the younger generation to do a bike ride for the surviving generation. This genocide happened in what felt like a modern world at the time. Genocide has happened since.
There's been a phenomenon repeated over and over again. It's called dehumanization. They found ways of disabling their inhibitions against doing terrible things.
It's like a psychological delusion that has to be put into place so that you can carry this out on a large scale.
Okay, so that's a taste of the film right there. And what's fascinating about it is you can read throughout history about dehumanization events like this going as back as human existence.
Yes.
But when you wrap them all together and you just literally, in the first 5 minutes of film, you stack one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, and you realize that the same type of thing is in human nature that repeats itself.
Yes.
It is harrowing and very disturbing to watch. But the story you tell within is extremely powerful, of a young boy whose father begged for his life at the foot of a Nazi commandant, who was in Schindler's List, by the way.
Yeah.
And then there's a bike ride that sort of commemorates this. I just summarized it for you, but why'd you get involved in this, and what do you think the movie speaks about?
I think our film is really a love letter to humanity. I think it's about, it's meant to be hopeful. There is something that we can do. We all have the power within us to be empathetic, and I think once we harness that and teach our children, so much of this is about social emotional learning and in the schools and teaching kids at a young age to be empathetic and have empathy towards others. I think that's one of the main reasons why I got involved in the film.
Yeah, it's the story of religion. It's the story of psychology. It's how we all have a choice between good and bad, and so often the bad boils over into genocides, and it happens repeatedly. What is your worry about today with social media, with the rhetoric that happens with certain groups of people on a large scale?
Well, you see this susceptibility exists in every single one of us. We have to recognize that, first of all, is that every single one of us is capable of being a perpetrator, victim, or a bystander. So as long as we recognize that personally, then we can start to sort of not deprogram, but safeguard against our own tendency to get that way. Currently, the language is just abhorrent, especially in social media. The most popular term that people call each other when they're angry is piece of S,
right.
You know, which is that's a slippery slope. It's easy to say, oh, well, I didn't really mean it. But in reality, what you're doing is you are slowly programming yourself to think of another human being as not quite as human as I am, not quite us.
I haven't been into watching a lot of sad movies lately. It just seems enough going on where it's like I want a comedy or something else. But this one's different. It's not just sad. It's important. It's enlightening at the same time, and it's compassionate. Why, in your opinion, does someone want to watch this movie despite knowing how heavy the topic is?
That's a really good question. I think because it's a wake-up call in a lot of ways. I think that when you see how genocide continues to happen over and over again, and then we say, hey, like, it doesn't, you know, it takes empathy. We don't have to be this way. And I think, yes, it is sad, but I do think that there is some hope. And we try and show that hopeful. We use the bike ride as sort of a thread to kind of lead us through and bring some hope to the situation.
And you do it in an apolitical way, and appreciate the way that the film is done, and wish you guys success on it because it's so important.
Thanks so much.
The Midwest premiere of The Living, For the Living, is tonight at 7:15. It's at the West End Cinema. That's in St. Louis Park. You know where that is. Lisa and Tim are going to be there on hand to answer questions. If you want to go to the screening, I highly recommend it. You can learn more, and you can find a link to get tickets on KARE11.com. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.